generate more value from the business model is financial stability. And this isn't very sexy, but it's really important. It involves three things. One is cash. We need more cash to do business because now we're huge and we need a whole bunch of cash just to keep the machine going. By virtue of our size, it costs a lot more to do business. The second is longer-term unrestricted funds to invest in pilots, to bridge programs, to keep innovating, and we don't have enough, and we need more. Not for anybody's profit, but for our own investment in what we and you think is important. And the third area, which you've heard some about, is risk management. We don't want to be AED. We got to get better at that. And we got people like Brian Smith, and they put us at great risk at certain times, so we want to control it. So, the three elements of increasing value, and again, there's no quick fix for PSI, but we think these could really leverage the value of PSI over the next 5 years if we can get better at these three things. The fourth area, the picture gets even bigger. Around that, it's not just you guys and the jetpacks, but we work in a world of donors and stakeholders and a landscape. So we're not alone, and these people often influence our world. They do influence our world, but you know what? We influence theirs as well, because we have 40 years of credibility of being the closest people to Sarah, and they respect that. So we think we can do more because of our size and because of where we are as an organization. We think we can do more to influence at PSI, and influence both at the global and local level. Now, one word on that: selective influence. We're not going to go out and change the world, and we're not particularly good at this in some areas, but we think in certain areas that we can do better, and that's two areas. One is in the public health agenda in certain cases, in certain countries, for certain public health issues. We could be doing more, and we have credibility that we really don't even recognize ourselves. The second area is certain PSI operating principles. Why do we add value? Why should they pick PSI? Why do you have this thing this picture of Sarah in the middle and this international headquarters and this global network? Why is that good for me? Why should I be funding that? Why is it a good value? What's this thing called TMA? I don't get that. So we can engage more with donors on our approach to things that we feel passionate about and listen. But donors need to get us, and there's a lot of things about us they still don't get. So that requires influence, and we think that increasing our global and local influence is another area that we have an obligation and would really help us advocate for Sarah outside of PSI. So that's it. It's those four words: need, marketing, value, influence. And we think, again, nothing's carved in stone, and there's no out of bounds in terms of challenging these things. But at this point, we think these things may be four really important areas where we could put our energy, that this would make pretty dramatic change in both how we do business and how we help Sarah. And the end result, we hope, no matter what plan we adopt, will be a happy Sarah and baby. That's it. Thank you. I'm sorry I spoke so long. I'm sure some of you expected that to be shorter and have to leave, and that's fine. I'm not going to run out, so I'd be happy to take any questions, and don't feel guilty for leaving now, because I think it's 11. But I'm happy to take any and all questions now, or any comments you want to make, and clarifications, because I can be very confusing sometimes.
I have a question, a comment, no, a complaint, a comment, and a question.
CCQ.
Yeah. The complaint is you spelled Sarah wrong. So I would like the H out. The comment is, I assume this means that you're paying for my grad school education since there's a focus on Sarah now. And
If you change the spelling.
yeah, okay, all right, we'll work it out.
Okay.
And then the question is actually serious. 5 years ago when we worked on our, or I guess, 6 years ago when we worked out our strategic plan, we were really looking forward. How do we expand as an organization? And now it looks like we're kind of looking in and saying, how can we be better at what we already do? And I guess my question is am I reading that correctly? And if so, can you kind of expand on how we're going to explore looking in and improving what we already do well?
Great question.
I'll walk towards you.
Well, it's a fantastic question, and it's something we struggle with and would love your thoughts on that. One of the things we do agree is it's not about just getting big anymore.
Right.
Like the last objective was double our revenue and Dallies. And that, first of all, that's no longer realistic. Second of all, we don't think it's just about getting big. Now, on the other hand, we don't want to just shrink to nothing and do super high quality work. So it's about, and we think like following the need, for example, can create and generating more value and becoming better marketers, that these things would all lead to greater opportunities for PSI. So, but it's not about just getting big and getting like some huge revenue target. It's not about that. It's about more impact, and aligning ourselves better and getting better at what we do. But we do want more. There's not a specific target yet now to the growth, but the thinking was that it's not really about giant revenue gains, but we want to grow our impact and relevance for Sarah. But it's not that we don't know, double is not realistic, but we think these four things would help us really give much more value to Sarah with if there are modest revenue increases, for example. It's a great question.
I was listening and thinking about something we're hearing more and more of, which is value for money, cost effectiveness, doing what we do, and not cheaper, but more cost effectively. And I was just curious if you see that fitting anywhere in these four areas, and if so, which one?
Absolutely. I think value for money and this whole value theme, part of it will come down to its return on investment for Sarah. So when we have the opportunity and responsibility to program resources for Sarah, it's all about how great a return, and our profit is Dallies, of course, or CYPs, but how can we generate more? So, value for money, cost per CYP. I personally think that we need targets to generate lower cost per CYP, even though there are so many things going against that. But how do we deliver more value to Sarah? How do you take $10 and make it more impactful for her? So value for money and getting more out of our business model, it's I think very consistent with those themes you mentioned, and we'll have to measure it. And it's not just about cost. It's not about cost cutting or Townley using less paper. That's important, but it's not just that.
I actually really enjoyed that video at the beginning, but it posed a really interesting question for me, because the video assumes that the man's message was the correct message to meet his needs. And so kind of in looking at changing different ways to provide our message, the way that the donor community and the development community is changing, what if our message is the wrong message? Or what if it doesn't align with, with the current situation and the future of where development and health development is going?
Great point. Well, first of all, this messaging is internal. How we would talk about it externally would depend on donor, would depend on trends and fads. But we do think that there's an incredible amount of pressure